on this episode of Unapologetic Uplift.
You don't have a mental illness. You have a normal reaction to abnormal circumstances.
Stable doesn't look like I'm drugged to where I can handle everything.
I'm cool with getting backlash and hate. I was put on psych meds at the age of 19 and have been on them ever since in this 4-year journey of coming off of them. In order to have a good time, I needed alcohol because I was so disconnected and miserable.
What do we really need? We do not self-edit and we allow whatever comes to come, regardless of how it lands on others, because that is not something that we can control.
The mind is always trying to prove what it knows to be true.
I think that we really need love.
This is not coming from a place of judgment. We could throw a tantrum about it and cry and say it isn't fair. It isn't fair, but it is what it is.
We really need human connection. We live in an age where we all have a lot of information at our disposal. And if we don't have the degree on the wall, it doesn't mean we're not capable of doing research.
It was so extreme. It makes me emotional to even talk about.
Oh, Kim, I'm so sorry. We really need to be able to hear our inner thoughts and desires and dreams. All you want is relief and help, and you're not given it through these drugs. And then you have to get off of them. And it's so hard to not question them just by virtue of the fact that they're in a position of authority. It doesn't make any sense at all. Nobody knows you like you do. We need to be able to be someone who can love and be loved, receive love and give love. And whatever that means to you.
There is no amount of medication that can regulate your nervous system.
Get ready to rise above the noise and unlock your true potential. Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift, the podcast that's all about keeping it real and helping you live your best life. Buckle up. Get ready to learn, grow, and evolve with us on Unapologetic Uplift. New episodes released weekly.
Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift. I'm your host, Kim Staples, joined by my beautiful co-host, Ianthe Mauro. Today, we are diving into a touchy topic, which is psych meds. And I'm so excited to delve into this, even though we're probably going to get some backlash. Because the thing about us humans is that when we believe something to be true, we feel comfortable with that. And when we hear something different that is not what we believe to be true, we can tend to experience a little bit of cognitive dissonance, and we get defensive as a protection mechanism, and we look to prove our narrative is true. The mind is always trying to prove what it knows to be true. So I'm cool with getting backlash and hate and just going to share my beliefs openly and honestly.
And I'm going to do the same. And I'm going to start by setting an intention on a candle. And this is going to be, I love your intro, Kim. And I love how we're going elephant in the room style with this new way of being. The intention that I'm setting here is that we do not self-edit and we allow whatever comes to come, regardless of how it lands on others, because that is not something that we can control. Amen. Hello.
And so it is. Let's have this conversation unapologetically.
Yeah. I want to say first that it's funny that you say this could be controversial. This could really piss a lot of people off. It's funny. I think I would like to know why. Why do you think that is? Why is this? Why would you say psych meds?
Because I think so many people are on them, and like I said, they believe what they believe, and our society has conditioned people to believe that we need psych meds. I've been on them myself. I have been weaning off of them for 4 years, and I'm still not completely med-free. I am trying really hard to get off the last one, and it's really, really challenging. And I'll delve more into that as the conversation continues. But I was that person. I was pro psych meds for a long time because the chemical imbalance theory that we were all fed, my generation, probably yours too, were told that if you have anxiety and depression, it is because of a chemical imbalance and you need to take these psych meds to balance everything out. Well, that theory has been completely kiboshed and is complete and utter bullshit. And I'm not saying that antidepressants don't do anything. They absolutely do, but it's a Band-Aid approach. And you're not healing the root cause. And unless you heal the root cause, you're never going to get rid of the thing that is causing you to feel like you need to be on these meds to begin with. And I see experts in this field like the holistic psychologist or Dr. Kendra Campbell, who is a board certified psychiatrist and has thrown away her prescription pad and started to just help people heal holistically and naturally. And I follow her and I see how much she is attacked by telling the truth and how people can't handle their truth being challenged. Like I said, it causes cognitive dissonance and it makes people really, really uncomfortable. And as human beings, we like comfort. We really, really like comfort, and we will fight for that.
Well, I lost a friend over this. And you're just reminding me of this story. I hadn't even thought about it until you were just saying this about how people respond to this. But here's what happened. It was years and years ago. I was in my 20s, and a really close friend of mine, and we've been friends since fourth grade. We'd known each other our whole lives. So she was like a sister. Our dads were best friends. Our families did things together. So this was someone I grew up with. And I remember one time having a conversation where I said to her, I just said it out loud because I trusted her. I had made an assumption that she felt the same way I did about this subject without taking into consideration that maybe she had a different take on it. So what ended up happening was I stepped on a landmine that I didn't know was there, because what I said was, we're walking along, and I remember this so clearly. And we're walking along and I said, I think anybody that takes, and remember, I was in my 20s, people. Okay. Context. And I said, anyone who takes antidepressants is weak. And I said it with a lot of venom, and I was really angry. And I'm not even going to get into why I said that at the time and why I felt that strongly at the time. But I said, and she said, really? What do you mean weak? And I said, well, they're just not doing the work. I don't think that popping a pill can help, because then your brain will adjust to that dose. Then you have to have another dose. And the side effects are unbelievable. The side effects are, in my opinion, worse than the depression when you read them. I mean, some of the side effects, almost all of them, are suicide, wanting to kill yourself. So I was there like getting really this righteous indignation about anybody who would do that. They need to change their environment. They need to have different friends. They need to have different, and she got really quiet, and that was it. And then later, it was probably about, I want to say maybe it was a month later, and we're having another walk and talk. And she says, you said something, and I feel like I have to say something to you about it. I don't know if we can be friends, because you said that someone who takes antidepressants is weak and they're not doing the work. She said, I've been on antidepressants for years. And it was this really interesting moment, Kim, because part of me was like, well, you're weak, to be honest. I mean, I know. It's like, okay, you're one of them. And that was the very bratty side of me. The other part of me that's very compassionate that thought, oh no, I really stepped on this landmine. And I don't want her to feel judged by me, and how judgmental of me and how shitty of me that's how I brought this conversation up. Come full circle now. We probably weren't friends for there's probably about a 5-year period where we were not close at that point. After that, I did try to clean it up, but she just didn't feel safe around me. And I get it. I don't think I was so safe for her to be around, because I was being very judgmental at that stage in my 20s. As we matured and got older, I came to her and I said, I'm really sorry that I made you feel judged. I do have a hairpin trigger around these medications, because I've seen it really take away people that I love. I've seen it take away their personality. I actually know 2 people who killed themselves on antidepressants. So that's my gestalt around it. So I apologize that I brought that to you. and we love each other. And now we're able to have these conversations. And she actually now has come around to a place where she has gotten off almost everything. She admits that the thing that she's on isn't that great, but she's not capable yet of fully weaning, but she's trying. And she's had these horrible physical brain shock things, she calls it,
brain
as
zaps.
she's trying to come off. Yeah, I'm just saying this to say, I know that I've been very judgmental around this, but I have reasons. So I'm going to throw it back to you, and then we'll just keep going back and forth tag team because,
And I do want to, I actually meant to preface this entire conversation by saying that this is not coming from a place of judgment. Like I said, I was put on psych meds at the age of 19 and have pretty much been on them ever since. And it has been this 4-year journey of coming off of them. There's no judgment. I get why people go on them, and I get how hard they are to get off of. Unfortunately, people aren't told when they go on them that I'm going to prescribe this prescription for you, but I don't know how to get you off of it, because the reality of the situation is 99% of doctors don't know how to descript. And same with pharmacists. This has been something that I have been experiencing. And if you delve into anybody else that has tried to get off of these medications, has gotten off of these medications, doctors don't know how to get you off of it. They are trained to write prescriptions. They are not trained how to get you off of them. And the problem is your body becomes dependent on them. So while they aren't addictive, they aren't considered addictive because you're not getting high off of it. Your body does become dependent on it. And when you stop taking it, there are very, very, very real discontinuation symptoms, or we can call them withdrawal symptoms. And they're dangerous, and it is not safe to just stop taking your medication. So I also want to say that this in no way is intended to push anybody to go just stop taking their medications. If you want to stop taking medications, there are people that can help you. It is going to cost you money, unfortunately, and we could sit there and we could throw a tantrum about it and cry and say it isn't fair. It isn't fair, but it is what it is. So if you want support, I will name this psychiatrist that I follow on Instagram, Dr. Kendra Campbell. She is a top holistic psychiatrist, and she does help people descript. And there are a few rehabilitation centers as well that you could search online. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but don't do it alone. Do not do it alone. It isn't safe.
I know. I'm so glad you brought that up. And, it's hard to not be judgmental. I'm going to tell you, my 20-year-old self, I can hear her loud and clear, and she was super judgmental about this. So here's how I'm not going to be judgmental. Here's how it works, how we can do this together, Kim, is that we know that the problem here isn't that somebody desperately, desperately needs relief from their horrifying experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that and acknowledge that. To be judgmental would be to discount that. We will never discount that. Your experience, whoever you are listening, who needs relief desperately, and the place that you found it, or you've been told to find it, is through medication. I have massive compassion for you. And I'm also extraordinarily concerned, because I would imagine, I'm going to guess, based on my own personal experience and everything that I've been through in my life thus far, as I am in my 50s, I have not seen it work for people. Even when they say, no, it really works, they're still experiencing needing their relief and desperate for relief. So I would say, of course, if the evidence is there and you are going, you know what, I popped this pill and I'm relieved. I want to hear your story, because I haven't heard that. I actually have not experienced that. Maybe for short bursts.
Yeah, absolutely, because we're not getting to the root cause and the issues still persist. My favorite thing that the doctor that I just recommended you follow, if you're in this situation or you want to start to explore it even, she says, you don't have a mental illness, you have a normal reaction to abnormal circumstances. And essentially,
Just say that again. Just say that again.
You don't have a mental illness. You have a normal reaction to abnormal circumstances. So this doctor, who practiced psychiatry, she is a board certified psychiatrist. She used to write these prescriptions to people and diagnose people with anxiety and depression. And she quit and she started her own practice. It's called free range psychiatry, and she detoxes people from psych meds and helps them heal holistically, which is the key piece, healing your trauma. She says that mental health diagnoses are made up. It is all trauma. And I follow a few different, like the holistic psychologist as well, which is Dr. Nicole LaPera, and a number of other also do holistic healing. So my beliefs are that, yes, it is trauma. And my beliefs have also studied in great depth attachment theory. I believe that mental health conditions stem from trauma and attachment issues from childhood.
Which is also called limbic attunement. When you get limbic attunement as a child, you have that natural attachment mostly to the mother. That's where it really works. Limbic attunement, that's how we are born to do that, to know that we're safe by our mother caring for us and knowing that our mother will care for us before we're even verbal, before we're able to even have a formal thought around it. Our whole body and system feels safe. And that's limbic attunement. And it's Dr. Gabor Mate that talks about addiction and does a lot with also talking about medications, but he talks a lot about limbic attunement and this exact thing that you're talking about. So I just wanted to put that in there since we're mentioning different doctor names.
Yeah.
And that whole idea.
Totally. I do like him as well. I follow him too. Yeah. And there are a number of child psychologists. I can't remember the name of the one that I have recently been listening to, some podcasts that she's been on. And she says the same thing, ADHD, any mental health issues that children face and behavioral issues all stem from attachment issues. They don't have a secure attachment to the mother. And yes, it primarily does need to be the mother. Yes, fathers can learn how to nurture in that way, but naturally it is the mother that children need this from. And listen, there's no judgment. I'm certain that not only have I been healing my own, I've been diagnosed with a number of different mental health conditions over the years. And I know that I had a disorganized attachment style, which is a combination of both an avoidant and an anxious attachment. So it's like the worst type of attachment disorder you could have based on my childhood trauma. And I believe that my children have experienced attachment disorders as well, because we live in a society that has conditioned us to believe that we not only do we not need to be the primary attachment for our child, we live in the society in Canada and the US where women are told you can have this fancy career and you can have securely attached children. Well, they don't describe it as that because most people aren't aware of attachment theory, but we're told that we can have it all. And the reality is it's really, really challenging. And there are some careers that would make it impossible. And I have had that career. I've had the corporate career, leadership career, where I was out of the house for hours on end. My kids were in daycare. And I believed at that time that I was doing the right thing because I could provide all of the material things and experiences that anybody could ever want. And we're told that it's quality over quantity. And that's fucking bullshit. Kids need quantity. They need their mothers and their fathers, but they need their mothers primarily. This child psychologist says between the ages of 0 and 3 and 9 to, I want to say 15, it might be older, are the most important points that they need the mother close all of the time. She says that the whole daycare is good for kids for socialization is bullshit. It's not good for kids. It causes ADHD. It causes anxiety. It causes all of these mental health conditions. And because we live in this society that is conditioning parents to work and to believe that they're doing the right thing, this is why we're at an all-time high in mental health crisis. If you look at children and young adults, the numbers are astounding. We have never seen anything like this before. The ADHD, the mental illness, the behavior issues, Children have attachment disorders. That's what they have.
Yeah, and that's where circling back to medications. So then what you're doing, like you said, not getting to the root cause, which is that they don't have the attachment as children. They've been in situations where they're trained to not listen to their intuition. They're actually trained to just you start to do these robotic things that you're told to do. And when you're thrown into groups, you're having to manage all the different needs. And so again, how are you listening to your own? And then you get to a point where you need medication because you need relief from these horrible feelings. And to bring up another thing about doctors, it's that I was told this. So I'm just protecting anonymity because I haven't asked permission just to tell certain people's stories. So I'm just not saying names. But somebody I'm very close to, I was actually told that they were asked, is it okay by their doctor? Is it okay if we just give you the diagnosis of bipolar because then your insurance is going to pay for these sessions? Okay. So I want to just point out that this is an industry that benefits if everybody receives a diagnosis. And why do they benefit and how do they benefit? Monetarily, because then through receiving the diagnosis, they can then prescribe. And all of that is cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. What doesn't make money, what doesn't make any money is reminding people to do breath work, tapping, and take a walk outside. And
to heal
be connected
themselves,
to their spirit and be connected to their intuition and their children.
And I think that there are people that they just want to make the money and they want the business to go round. But I know that there are very well-intentioned doctors and pharmacists out there, and this is what they're trained to do. And they genuinely believe this is what they're taught in medical school, that writing the prescription is what solves the problem. A lot of them, I'm sure, know about nervous system regulation, but it's not what they're taught. A lot of them know about these different holistic practices and how exercise helps and how hydration and nourishing your body helps, but it's not what they're taught in school. They're medical doctors, means they practice medicine, and they are taught to write prescriptions. And people will argue that yes, these medications are needed because it does give you dopamine and serotonin, and it does increase the levels of these chemicals in your brain, and it might make you less depressed. It's this Band-Aid. But as somebody that has seen many different doctors over the years, like I said, I've been on this journey since I was 19 years old, was the first time I was written a prescription for anxiety and depression. I have never had any doctor I have ever seen, and I've seen psychologists, psychiatrists, I have seen tons and tons of different medical doctors, and they've never done blood work on me. They've never asked if I was hydrated. They never asked how I was nourishing my body with vitamins, supplements, and food. They never asked if I said exercising, and certainly never asked me about nervous system regulation. Okay? So if you're listening to this and you are on medication, if your doctor did not ask you any of those things, they have failed you. Medication should never be a first line treatment. It shouldn't be. And I guarantee you, if you tried all of those things before going on the medication, you wouldn't need the medication. And I have so many clients that have come to me just on the verge of about to go on to medication. And I'm like, no, just wait. Let's try doing breath work, tapping, holistic healing, making sure that you're hydrating and taking care of yourself before you try the medication. And literally, one of my clients right now that I have been working with one-on-one was like, I decided to start working with you because I had a prescription. I went and I filled the prescription. And after one session of working with me and her starting to do meditation and holistic healing, she was like, I am so glad that I didn't take that prescription because I feel amazing. I feel so good. And why aren't doctors making these suggestions? Why aren't they checking your blood to see what kind of deficiencies you have? Because it is so much more likely to be a deficiency than depression. And I am not saying that depression doesn't and anxiety don't exist.
Like vitamin D. I mean, it's simple. There's vitamin D. I mean, there's so many studies about this. I think what's wonderful is let's normalize doing our own research, because we've been demonized. We've been told out there, I'm sorry, but this all happened during COVID like I've never seen before, where everybody was saying, you're not a doctor. Okay, can I just break this down for you? Listen, who's a doctor? A doctor's somebody like you and me, a human being who was also born of human parents, who decided to go to school because they were very interested in learning how to hopefully heal people. And because of all those years of schooling, they have a lot of information at their disposal. But guess what else? We live in an age where we all have a lot of information at our disposal. And if we don't have the degree on the wall, it doesn't mean we're not capable of doing research. So stop telling me that I have to be a doctor in order and have that doctorate in order to question.
And I'll be the first to say I was completely one of those people for a long time. You need to show me peer-reviewed articles. I am a highly educated person. When you go through post-secondary education, they literally train you that way. They teach you how to do proper research, and they're like, it has to be peer-reviewed articles. If it's not that, you can never trust it.
And guess what? You and I can get access to peer-reviewed articles. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and they're out there, but we also live in a society where things are monitored, what we have access to. So while yes, there are peer-reviewed articles, they are suppressed and blocked a lot of the time, and they can be really, really hard to find.
But they're also, on that note, they're blocked for the doctors as well. What you're talking about are things that don't go with the narrative of whatever we're supposed to all go along with.
Like try and find peer-reviewed articles on vaccines that show that they aren't safe.
Or like what we're talking about with SSRI drugs. Or, I remember, so when I was first going through my divorce, I was going to therapy, and the therapist was not a psychiatrist. It was a therapist, and she was a marriage family counselor therapist, MF, whatever that is, that distinction. And she said, I really think you should go on SSRI drugs, at least temporarily. And I said, first of all, what is that? She's like, oh, well, it's for depression and anxiety. And and you're going through such a hard time. I was having trouble sleeping. I mean, I was leaving a marriage. I didn't want to be that person that ever had left a marriage. I didn't believe in divorce. I really believed in my vows, and I was struggling. So of course I wanted some relief. That's why I was there to her. But when she said that to me, I changed therapists. I didn't take the drugs. I changed therapists because first of all, I was in my 30s. So we all know that I've already gone through this in my 20s. I already had some prejudice around taking medication. But she was saying it's temporary. It's for temporary. You're in a temporary moment of you need to stabilize, and your kids are young and they need you to be stable. And I thought about it. I said, what does stable look like? I'm going to tell you what I thought. Stable doesn't look like I'm drugged to where I can handle everything and it's just kind of slipping off my back. What stable looked like to me was I am getting shit thrown at me and I'm dealing with it. And sometimes I'm crying and sometimes I'm yelling and sometimes I'm losing sleep, but I'm getting through it anyway. And that is, in my personal opinion, for my children to see me being real and handling it, what's coming at me, even though it was fucking hard. I preferred that to numbing it out, which is what I feared would happen with the medications. I might be wrong.
Totally.
I didn't try them.
No, it does, but it doesn't prevent you from still getting depressed. And it does numb you for sure, but you're still losing your shit. You're still dysregulated. There is no amount of medication that can regulate your nervous system. There is not a medication that can regulate your nervous system. So these medications. Glad you said that
twice, because I was going to say that again.
There's no medication. Let me say it again. That can regulate your nervous system. These medications, SSRI is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Serotonin is a chemical that your brain naturally releases that creates feelings of joy and happiness, okay? So it can make you feel less depressed. And your body becomes dependent on it and it needs more and more and more. And then there's the SNRI, which is a serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. Again, chemicals that make you feel good, make you feel happy. They don't regulate your nervous system. Do not regulate your nervous system. Then there are benzodiazepines, which calm you, sedate you. So they will, if you're feeling anxious, this is what I was prescribed them for because I was having panic attacks. These are highly addictive. Highly.
Is that Xanax?
Yes, that would be Xanax
Okay.
is a benzo.
I was prescribed Xanax, and I did take Xanax for, I will tell you, a few times for panic attacks. And
So this is the thing.
More than the panic attacks.
So this is the thing about benzos. They say, oh, you only have to take it when you need it. It's not something you have to take every day, like an SSRI or an SRNI or an NDRT. You take them as needed. Okay. And then what happens is people take them because they're having a panic attack and they're like, oh, okay, this did calm me down. It sedated me and it got rid of the anxiety. But what happens is you build a tolerance to these medications very, very quickly. And you need to take more to have the same effects. You need to take more. Or some people like the way that they make you feel because they do make you high. So then they start taking more, okay? So the genius doctor that prescribed them to me when I was in university and having these panic attacks as I was going through my separation as well, and like a horrible time, I was preparing to leave my husband and just in university with 3 kids. And it was the doctor at the university that said, okay, I can give you something to make the panic attacks stop. I'm going to prescribe clonazepam, which is a benzo. And I want you to take 2 pills 3 times a day to make sure you don't have any panic attacks. So you'll take it in the morning, you'll take it in the afternoon, and you'll take it in the evening. So I was literally walking around sedated all the time. And of course, over time, it just stops working. And in order for it to work, you would have to take more, which I refused to do because I was like, I'm not going to go down that path. Not to mention it's a controlled substance. So your body is dependent on it. It's highly addictive. If you take more of it and run out, it's illegal for the pharmacy to give you any more. So you have to make sure that you take it as prescribed. I mean, you can buy it illegally and there are people that do that, but I wasn't going down that route. So I took my 6 pills a day on top of my SSRI, on top of NDRT and an SNRI. Yeah.
Wow.
SNRI, okay? And it didn't heal anything. I was numb, but yet I was still self-medicating with alcohol on the weekends.
On top of all of that,
Because in order to have a good time, I needed alcohol because I was so disconnected and miserable. And this went on. So I did get medication free for a little bit because I thought having a baby was a great idea. Would make me happy. It was a hot fucking mess. I managed to get off of the medications and stayed off of them for my pregnancy, but I was not okay. Not okay at all. And then after the baby, the postpartum hit and it scared the shit out of me. So I went and got back on the medications because I didn't know any of the things that I know now. It was just like, chemically, this is not okay because I didn't heal to get off of the medications. I just got off of the medications and it wasn't okay. So at that point, that's when I started to like delve into healing. I was on the medications, but the medications aren't it. They aren't making me better. They're making me not go into psychosis and not go crazy because I've been on these medications for so long. Everything is out of whack. Who knows what kind of deficiencies? Blood work was never done. I was sent to psychiatrists and they were trying to prescribe more medications, go on a mood stabilizer, an antipsychotic, this and that. And I was just like, those scare me. I'm not taking more medications. And at the time, I had stopped self-medicating with alcohol because I had a baby. So I can't be getting wasted on the weekends. I did use marijuana at that time. I was getting it prescribed. It was before it was completely legal, so you couldn't go into a dispensary. So I got it prescribed. And I would have a little bit of weed in the evening to make me feel happier and help me sleep. I had to do deep deep trauma healing. And it is that has gotten me off of all of the medications. And I am still currently taking an NDRT, which is norepinephrine and dopamine reuptake inhibitor. And because no doctor has been able to get me off of these medications, no pharmacist has been able to get me off of these medications, it's all been on my own research, figuring out how to get off of them. The first thing I was like, I'm getting off of the benzos first, because that's the one that's highly addictive. And I thought that it made most sense to get off of that first. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to go off of the SSRI. And now I'm going to go off the SNRI. And for some reason, I chose to do the NDRT last, which is, so this medication, it's a stimulant and it releases the dopamine to make you feel happier, which it doesn't. It numbs you. And the problem with this medication is that it is time released and the lowest dose is 150 milligrams. So my last decrease, which I would never recommend anybody do this, but this is what the doctors recommend. If you are trying to get off, go follow the doctor I recommended. Again, her name is Dr. Kendra Campbell on Instagram. And she says, you want to get off psych meds? Don't listen to your doctor. She has like a list of things. And that is one of them, because they just don't know how to get you off of it. And neither do the pharmacists. They'll say, cut your dose in half. So my last reduction was from 300 to 150. Okay. It's taken me about 8 months to recover from that. It was so extreme. It makes me emotional to even talk about.
Oh, Kim, I'm so sorry. And you see that this is what I'm saying, how my 20-year-old self was calling it weak to take medication. No, look at how strong you are. And all you want is relief and help. And you're not given it through these drugs. And then you have to get off of them. And it's so hard. So what happened?
It's so hard. I will never say that it's easy. And it seems like an easy fix, right? Just go on medication. It'll make you feel better. Slightly. Yeah, it makes you feel slightly better. It doesn't heal you though.
And the same thing now that's happening with weight loss. Just take a pill.
Yeah, totally. Or an injection. So yeah, the last one, I had horrible rebound anxiety. I had the brain zaps. I was feeling depressed. I have tools to work through it, thank God. But it scared me. And I was like, there's no way I'm going from 150 to 0. That's not safe. It is not safe. But that is what the doctors tell you to do. And it's funny because if you follow Dr. Campbell, she talks about this, how they tell you to cut your dose in half and to take it every other day, which is not safe. And that's most recently I've reached out to a compounding pharmacy because I'm like, I can't go from 150 to 0. It isn't safe. I know what happened when I went from 300 to 150, and that's still having the medication in my system. And it isn't safe. I'll probably start having seizures and I can't do it. So I wanted to see about getting it compounded, but because it is a time released and that's the lowest dose, they can't compound it. So where I'm at right now is either going into a rehabilitation center or just switching to a different medication. So I'm going to switch back onto an SSRI. I'm going to go on Prozac because that will offset the withdrawals and all of those horrible symptoms. And then from there, I can have Prozac compounded and I can do really, really tiny dose reductions.
And so it's gone.
Yeah. And people that have been on these medications for 6 months might be able to just wean off of it. And I know somebody that was like, oh, I got off of the exact medication that you're taking. And it wasn't too bad, but I started taking an SSRI, right? But if you're going from that to nothing and you have been on these medications for the amount of time that I have been on them, and I'm not even saying it would be safe if you were on it for 6 months, but maybe it would be easier to get off of it. But there are rehab centers for a reason. This is what I want people to be educated on before they get onto these medications. It's like, oh, they're safe. That's what they say. They're completely safe. And the last time I talked to my doctor, he's like, why don't you just stay on it? remember the last time you went off your meds, which was when I decided to conceive my daughter and I was a fucking disaster of a human. You rebounded and you had to go back on them. And I couldn't even in that moment. It was on a phone call with him. And I have a great relationship with my doctor and have always been very honest with him about doing things holistically. But I was just like, I could just feel my blood boiling inside of me. And I'm like, okay, I can't have this conversation right now. I cannot. And I just got off the phone. And 5 days leading up to this call, I had been calling different compounding pharmacies, trying to find some way or some other version of this medication that I'm on that I can do these lower doses. And then he's just like, oh, just stay on it. And I'm like, it isn't his fault. This is what he's trained to believe. He's been brainwashed. I'm just like telling myself this. I'm like, I'm going to have this conversation. The conversation is far from over. But I had to take time to work through that because it was just so triggering, because this is every doctor. This is what they're trained. Well, if it's working, why would you want to stop taking it? Meanwhile, there are no studies to show the long-term effects of being on these medications. It takes years for your brain to heal from being on these medications, at least a year.
Oh, it's so great that you're willing to share this in real time and let our listeners, anybody that's watching or hearing this, be able to see really what it's like to struggle through this. And so I hope that it's helpful. If you're listening to this and you were wondering, should I go on these medications? I hope that it's giving you pause, because of course what you should do is, yes, get relief for the horrible things that you're feeling and going through and the kind and trauma that you've experienced in your life. But at what expense? And what are you trading for the relief? What are you trading? What is happening to your health as a result? And also, I'm going to bring this up too. If there's an emergency, like we just had the entire Palisades burned down to the ground recently. Whenever you're listening to this, if it's a long time ago, fine, but you'll know the reference. In Pacific Palisades, California, the entire community gone, burned to the ground. 48 hours later, there's almost no houses standing. And things like that can happen. There have been floods. There's COVID when everyone's locked down. What happens if you can't get your medication and you're on this trajectory where your body can't handle it? It's very dangerous for you not to have it. So that also scares me. Like, I take a thyroid pill every single day. I don't know what will happen if I can't get that thyroid pill. And there's a part of me that's always saying, what if something's shut down where we can't get our medications? So even for that reason, wouldn't it be good not to be dependent on something?
Oh, God. Yes. Yes. And I have lived that experience. I have, like, when I moved for my career and I didn't have a family doctor in the area and I would run out of the benzos, and you can't go into a walk-in clinic. Here, they legally cannot prescribe them in walk-in clinics because it's a controlled substance. I would have to go to the hospital and sit there for hours to wait to get a prescription because I didn't have a family doctor. And it literally rules your life. The medication that I'm still currently on, there's a shortage of it right now. So I went 3 days without it and I was starting to have all of the symptoms, and I'm like, what's going on? They're like, okay, we can give you a few weeks. And they're not taking these medications. The pharmacists, the doctors that are prescribing them, maybe some of them are, but the majority of them aren't taking them. And they don't know. They're told, oh, you just go down to 150 milligrams and then stop. Yeah, you go fucking take it and then go from 150 milligrams and just stop and then come talk to me, okay? There are rehabilitation centers to help people get off of these medications because it's safe to do that. You have to detox off of them. It's crazy. Yeah. They need to learn firsthand what these medications actually do. There is this ignorance amongst medical professionals. This is what they've been taught. This is what the pharmaceutical companies tell them about the drugs, and they take it at face value. And I'm sorry, if any of these medications work, why do we have to be on multiple different kinds?
And keep changing them? So in circling back to, as we wrap this episode, there are going to be a lot of opportunities for us to go deeper into any of this. And I'm hoping that we're going to get guests on who are experts, who have had experience both prescribing and being on these different medications, to talk about their stories, because I think it's really important. The bottom line is, I don't want anyone to feel judged. I just want us to be brave enough to ask more questions.
Yeah, that's it, right? Take a root cause approach. If you are on medication and you want to stop taking it, don't just stop taking it. The first thing that you should do is start focusing on taking really good care of yourself, healing, which should have been the first line, treatment and suggestion. But I've yet to meet a doctor who has suggested any of that. And this is the same experience for anybody else I've ever talked to. I'm sure there are one-offs, I hope. But the root cause approach is where it's at.
And it's also question authority. I mean, I was raised with this idea of question authority, which I think has become, I see it less and less, but question authority just means when someone's in a position of authority, to not question them just by virtue of the fact that they had more schooling than you, or they're in a position of authority, doesn't make any sense at all. Nobody knows you like you do. And so, yeah, it doesn't mean you have to be disrespectful. And it doesn't mean that I'm saying that all doctors or anybody that went through schooling is brainwashed. I did not say that. Some are. And there are some wonderful doctors who went through it and really see themselves as healers and are interested in people's healing and holistic care. So none of that matters. You're never going to know what your doctor's like unless you're asking a lot of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a big mistake that I made, was just trusting. And I think this is the case for a lot of people. We want to believe that all people are good, right? Like we just want to believe that. And we want to believe that everybody has our best interest at heart. And I'm not saying that your doctor doesn't have your best interest at heart, but where did they get the information? They got it out of a textbook and from pharmaceutical company. And yes, there are medicines that save lives. I will never, ever say, let's write off all medication. Medicine is bad. There is a time and a place for medicine. But when it comes to mental health, medication should never be a first-line treatment. And I can't say that there are no people out there that need medication, because I'm not an expert. I don't know. But I know in my situation, medication was not the answer. Healing childhood trauma and my attachment disorder was what I needed. And I believe this is the case for a large portion of the people that are written prescriptions. Is it 100% of them? I don't know, but I'm willing to bet it's at least 90% of them. And I believe that all people should try holistic healing before being thrown on medications that they're going to probably never be able to get off of, because I know how determined I am and how hard it is for me. And most people will give up. I'm going to start coughing.
I actually looked up I really wanted to find this quote because it reminded me of what we're talking about. And I want to see if I can find it. I think let's see. I wish I could find this quote. I think it's something like, it is no measure of health to be, hang on. It's something like, it's no measure of health to be not adjusted. What's the word he used? I have to find it. To a sick society. Like, basically, if society is not well, being able to just get along in that not well society doesn't make you well. It makes you sick too. So it's noticing, being brave enough to just say, this isn't working. And even though conventional wisdom tells me I need to go to the psychiatrist, get a diagnosis, take this medication, please check in. Is it working? And if it is, great, beautiful.
Yeah. And let's talk about diagnosis for a second, because I don't think we touched on this. I have
Oh,
been
well,
diagnosed.
yeah, and I did mention the one thing about diagnosis was being asked, can we just give you this diagnosis because it's going to pay for your
Okay.
medication
Yeah. So,
and your
as
bill. But yeah,
somebody
totally.
that has been diagnosed, bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, which is probably the one thing that I actually believe because I
Sure.
believe trauma is what causes all mental health conditions. I have yet to see somebody that grew up in a well-nurtured with a healthy attachment to their parents and loved unconditionally and nurtured to have all of these crazy mental health diagnoses. I've not seen it. If you are the anomaly, please
I agree.
let me know,
Yeah,
because I am not an expert on this, but I know what I know and what I have seen and what my intuition tells me and what my experience has been and the experience of all of my clients and all of the people that I have helped and all of the people that I know. And as somebody that has been diagnosed, like I said, bipolar, PTSD, manic depressive, panic disorders, generalized anxiety disorder, every diagnosis I have ever been given, I have never been given blood work. I have never been given anything other than sitting across from a doctor with a checklist, asking me a number of questions, and then telling me, yep, you fit the diagnosis of this. You have this.
and now that's happening, by the way, on a Zoom call, not even in person. I know people who are getting these diagnoses on a Zoom call and then taking their medications based on a 40-minute Zoom. Yeah. And I'll say I was raised by parents who loved me unconditionally, and there was pretty good attachment. My parents both had to deal with their own stuff that they grew up with, and they tried really hard to heal it, but they were very conscious about it. And I've never been diagnosed with anything. So if that's an indication,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And also highly sensitive. I am a highly sensitive person. All of my children are highly sensitive. So I can see it with Kaya and Axel, my 6 and 8-year-old, how if they didn't have the attachment that they have to me, and it hasn't always been perfect. They were in daycare the first couple of years. And I honestly believe if I were not running my own business and able to be at home with them and now homeschooling them, especially my son, he is highly sensitive and he was having behavior issues and lashing out, and he would be slapped a diagnosis and would end up having severe mental health issues.
the beautiful thing here that I want to acknowledge you for is that you're recognizing what your children need and you're making adjustments that are not easy, and they do take a lot of courage to homeschool. You're given, I know you've got a lot, society gives a lot of pushback. It is more popular now, which is awesome, but it's still not conventional. And it still means that you have to create things. You have to create opportunities for them now. You're not dropping them off at school. And that's huge. And it's so beautiful that your children are getting this from you. They're getting that you're paying attention to what they need, not just going off of what society's telling you and dictating for you to do.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be able to offer that, because listen, I know that this is not something that everybody is able to do. There are single moms out there that need to provide and don't have an option. But I can tell you, it's not easy for me. And we've made sacrifices to be able to do this. I am not spending as much time in my business as I would be if they were in school. We've had to weigh, is it worth us making the kind of money we were making before and living in the big fancy house and being able to give them every possible material thing that they need? No, that doesn't really matter. As much as we love those things, they're kids for such a short amount of time. So for me, I can sacrifice what I want for these years. Life is long and short at the same time, but the amount of time that they are children is short in comparison to your entire life.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. You don't get back, because we talked about, to come full circle, all of these diagnoses are coming, we believe, you and I, Kim, and it's not because we just pulled this out of the sky. We believe this based on a lot of research and a lot of experts that we've listened to over the years, that it comes from not having enough attachment as a child, not having that limbic attunement, having a dysregulated nervous system.
Yeah.
So we're So what you're doing right now, maybe you say it's not the fancy house and having every material thing, but we know none of that matters in the end. If you're dysregulated, you don't love the fancy car, doesn't mean anything to you anyway.
We all
So
leave this earth with nothing.
exactly. And what do we really need? I think that we really need love. We really need human connection. We really need to be able to hear our inner thoughts and desires and dreams. We need to be able to be someone who can love and be loved, receive love and give love, in whatever that means to you. So that has nothing to do with how much money you have in your bank account. Absolutely doesn't.
And also, we talked about, we believe this because of all the research we've done, what we've seen, and lived experience. I have 3 older children that struggle with attachment disorders. They've struggled with their mental health. My eldest son struggled with addiction. Luckily, he's on the other side of that now. My second son, who was alienated from me, that never would have been possible if he had a secure attachment to me.
Now, I just want to say, because there's this side of me that I'm hearing, I don't know where this comes from, but I'll say something and then I'll imagine who is it landing on for a second. And I know that we don't know who's listening to this at any given day. But if you're listening to this and in some way it upset you to hear me say, to love and be loved, to have a child feel loved and be able to receive love and give love doesn't matter how much you have in your bank account. I do want to acknowledge that it does matter that you have enough in your bank account that you can eat and that you can live in a safe place. And I know that if you don't have that, I want you to not make yourself wrong for the struggles, whatever it is that you're going through right now.
Totally.
And to know that you can explain to your children things that are going on and you can get help, hopefully from your community, and know that even if it's not ideal and you're really struggling financially, I don't want you to think that doesn't mean that your children can't be okay.
Yeah. And listen, I have struggled financially. I have been poor. I have been on social assistance with children. I was a teen mom that had no education at the time. And you can still be a present parent while working. You don't have to be at home 100% of the time. Obviously, that is ideal for you to be your child's primary caregiver so that they can have the most secure attachment.
We also know that in Western society, it's very hard to do that.
And sometimes impossible. Sometimes impossible.
Yeah.
If you can make sacrifices to make it happen, of course, I would encourage you to do that and to downsize, do what you need to do for those few years. Maybe give up the Disney vacation, whatever. Anyways, some people don't have any other option but to go work 8 hours a day. The time that you can be present with your kid, be present. Don't be like this on your phone constantly, and just figure out a way to be as present as you can possibly be.
And that's what I was going to say too. That's what it comes down to. And my word for this year, I do a word every year. And for this particular year the word is present. How can we be present, more present, listen in a more deep way? When we're listening deeply to ourselves and to others, we're able to be present. And it's also called mindfulness. It's called a lot of things, but that's something you can do that doesn't require any kind of bank account. It's being present, and you're allowed to be wherever you are. So if your children, I don't think that being worried that our child is going to see us upset or sad, that's life. And what's going to be really informative for them is to see not to see a parent that's never upset and that hides that they ever get upset, but to see a parent that's upset and to be able to witness how they get themselves out of it. And I hope it's not popping a pill. I'm sorry, I just had to say it.
Or having a drink.
Exactly. So, because as we said throughout this episode, there's so much more to it, and we are complex, sensitive beings. Everyone is. I don't care who you are. You are a complex, sensitive being. I promise you are. So how can one pill, one size fits all, work for us to somehow get us untangled from these needs that we have. I don't think it can. And again, if it is working for you, beautiful. And I'd love to hear your story.
Yeah. And such a good point. Your children cope how you cope. And again, I have learned that firsthand. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So
When you're able to regulate, when you're healed and you can safely hold space for them, they learn to be able to hold space for themselves. They are regulated. Just do the work and heal yourself one day at a time. Do your best.
And listen, I want to offer this. Don't feel like you have to do this alone. There are lots of resources, and Kim and I are good at sharing resources. So if you're feeling lost, gosh, easy for them to say, I don't know who is that psychologist, or our DMs are always open. All of our social media handles, you can find us so easily. You can also comment here. If you're watching this on YouTube, make a comment and tell us you need more resources from us. We're very open to that, and we love to be of service in that way.
Totally.
And we're still messy and figuring it out too.
Yeah, you will never, ever hear me say that I have it all figured out. And anybody that tells you they do is full of shit. I don't care if they're
That's right. And
doctor,
that's why we're
what they're an expert in. Yeah, we are all just living this human experience, doing the best we can, figuring it out as we go.
So I'm just sending everyone here grace and love, and please just give yourself a break. Please, in some way, whatever that looks like for you.
And
today.
Breathe.
And if you want tapping and breathing techniques, you need to go to Kim ASAP, especially if you're a woman, because if you're not right now, she just has offering things for women. So if you're a woman and you're listening to this, you need to go and talk to Kim about what she's offering for nervous.
Yeah, do one-on-one work with men.
Game change. And she will do did you hear that, men? She will do one-on-one work with men. Okay, good. I didn't want to say that for you, but that's wonderful.
All right.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed this episode today, leave us a 5-star review, and please, please share us with a friend. We will see you next Wednesday. Love your beautiful faces. Bye-bye.
Be unapologetic. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Unapologetic Uplift. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share the love and tell a friend about us, and give us a review.
Please don't miss a thing. Subscribe to this podcast and explore our sponsors, Objects with Purpose, Eco Luxury Candles, and Divine Activation membership.
Objects with Purpose is more than an eco-luxury candle brand. They are time travel devices in the form of a candle. Light the 3 wicks representing past, present, and future with the validation that you are exactly where you need to be. And if you're ready to raise your level of consciousness and step into your unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era, join the Divine Activation membership at cuttingties.coach/queen. With 3 tiers to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit to support your transformation.
Thank you for your listening and love. We'll see you next Wednesday on Unapologetic Uplift.
Welcome to the Divine Activation membership, a movement for women that are ready to raise their consciousness and step into their unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era.
With your heart, live authentically, and become the magnet for all of your soul's desire.
Grow, connect with your heart and body, release unhealthy and unhelpful thought patterns, heal old wounds, create new neural pathways, and reprogram your subconscious with high-value beliefs so you can manifest the life you're meant for.
Ready to take a break from what's holding you back? Visit cuttingties.coach and join the Divine Activation membership today. Hey, unapologetic souls. I'm Ianthe Mauro, founder of Objects with Purpose, candles that touch the soul and the body. I've released a limited edition 3-wick candle collection in 3 fragrances inspired by a time in history. The Time Travel Collection, because scent evokes memory and lighting a candle can truly transport you to your highest self. Anytime.
Ianthe's candles are truly special, clean, safe, even for the body as a solid perfume or massage oil, and smell amazing. But what truly fills her heart is empowering others to be seen in their best light.
In 2020, when the 200 stores that sold my candles across the country closed their doors, I knew it was time to give back. I started guiding others to launch their own candle companies and design candles and fragrances for other brands as a way to share light in a dark time.
So why settle for just any conventional candle? Light the 3 wicks in each Objects with Purpose candle. You're supporting handmade in California, small batch, artisanal, eco-luxury, and treating yourself to a memory-evoking evolution. Visit ianthemauro.com to discover your next favorite candle. Let the olfactory experience inspire cherished memories.